Happy Monday, Bomber fans. I am sure we're all over the moon, big win, top of the ladder, so I will try and get through this review as concisely as possible, but man, that was a good game against an old rival with an injury list reminiscing a novel. We got the job done and did so convincingly. Also guys, something I'm going to be doing on this channel with these weekly reviews is a little fan-made best and fairest count. I will give my votes Brownlow style, but I will combine them with the votes you guys give as well, so in the comments below, give your Brownlow style votes to the Essendon players you think had the best games. 3 votes to the best, 2 to the second best, 1 to the third best, you know the drill. So enter those votes down below in the comments and subscribe to stay tuned to the count. The first quarter started, we looked really good early. The first few minutes we had the ball locked in our 50, we won some early clearances and goals to Redmond and Caldwell had it looking like a fun afternoon, but after that it was dismal for the term. They won almost every centre clearance for the quarter and kicked 4 goals on the hop. A late goal to Menzies helped make the scoreboard look respectable, but take nothing away from it. The first quarter was a fat loss. We looked slow and careless late into the term, and without Redley, Redmond and BZT back there, we would have conceded many more goals. You could tell Scott rallied the troops together at the break because the second term was our best of the first quarter, patched together more consistently. We kicked 5 goals to 1, including an awesome highlight from Alan Davey Jr. just before the siren. There was almost a role reversal. They only laid 5 tackles for the quarter. We found space a lot easier than we did in the first, and we were really scoring off our intercept possessions. We kicked 3 of our 5 goals from intercepts, something Scott is clearly instilling into us early. We saw life without Wright in that second quarter as well. Jones was really good around the ground and he kicked a lovely goal from outside 50, but when he was quiet, it was Wiedemann who lit up the game. He kicked back-to-back goals and even supplied some awesome forward pressure which resulted in a set shot. It was a pleasing period of play. The third quarter was probably the most complete quarter I have seen us play in quite a few years. That was unreal. We not only piled on goals, kicking 6 to none, but we completely shut them down offensively. They had a lot of the ball, but it was attempts to switch across half-back which would fail because of how well we set up defensively. They wanted to use the corridor to instill life into their game, but couldn't. We had our midfielders plonked in and around the square, and players like Menzies, Davey, Durham and Perkins were supplying pressure to the ball getters, and because of how well we were positioned aerially, they didn't want to force long kicks, and when they did, we were all over it. We were completely in control for every single second of the quarter. It was brilliant to watch as a fan who has seen nothing but instability from last year. We also ran out on top of their midfield, which I expected. I said in our preview that they would come out fast. They got bigger bodies in there, but we have experience and maturity which we used. Merritt, Setterfield, Parrish and Shield were great as the game went along. We won just about every centre clearance for the third quarter, and the fourth quarter was much of the same. We took our foot off the gas a little bit late into the piece, which is understandable. We were up by about 10 goals, but that scoreline genuinely flattens Hawthorn a bit. It could have been 70 to 80 points, but we tried to find Waller a few times. We tried to make the script all that more exciting, but really you can't find many faults out of the second half. It was just pure domination against a young team. Nothing against the Hawks, but that is a fair and deserved result. Before the game, a lot was being made about our avenue to goals, especially without Peter Wright and Jake Stringer, but the fact we kicked a score that big was super impressive. It gives me faith that we can show some decent signs throughout the year up there with Weeds and Jones. I still don't think this is a finals worthy performance. We have to keep a lid on it. We were playing what I think to be the worst team in the comp, but it was great regardless. This game showed that we have a good looking forward setup and it isn't even close to full strength. There is lots of depth there now as well, with Snelling and Guelphy having played through the VFL despite being podium Crichton medal finishers. They're going to be fit to play next week, but it's hard to know if they can even force their way into the team. And then you also got Stringer, who's another one. Do they give him another week on the sidelines to be back to full strength? I think despite the opponent being so average, no offense Hawthorn fans, I am over the moon. That injury list that we gathered is massive. No Stringer, who I just mentioned, no Wright, no Guelphy, no Cox, no Hobbs, no Stewart, no Sartas, no Reed. These are all players that would be in contention for our best 22 who missed out either due to injury or because the club doesn't want to rush them back from a recent injury. There are lots of positives. The big one though is our defensive setup. That third term specifically showed it at its best. We gave them no options going forward. They were forced to chip around in defense until turning it over to us. We were so good aerially despite having a small defense. Everything about our defense was great, in fact. Our midfield stood up after being knocked down in that first quarter. It was a mature performance from all involved. Shield, Merritt and Parrish were huge, but Setterfield in his first game for the club was super impressive as well. I think we almost have a system in place that we can trust now. I don't know how it's going to hold up against Melbourne in round 4, but I can see us being 3-1 if we play like that against Gold Coast, St Kilda and GWS. As for negatives, there are a few. The first quarter is a big one. We were really poor. I was quite worried at the first break, and Wright going down means we are putting a lot of trust into Phillips and Draker, which is a ruck matchup I've never been that keen on. But all in all, it was a great match. We got the dub. We finished the round on top of the ladder for the first time in a long time, and we got through it unscathed. left. No unnecessary injury worries that I know of. Like I said earlier, I will do some votes for myself for best on ground, but get your 3-2-1s down below in the comments as well for the channel. So 1 vote goes to Archie Perkins, 3 goals, 3 behinds, 20 touches, and over 500 meters gained. It was a super powerful performance for the young man. 2 votes go to Mason Redman. I think he was at his best when we were at our worst, and I think he was a big reason we didn't go further behind. He was awesome in defense, but also popped up for some trademark outside 50 goals. And 3 votes, no surprises here. Darcy Parish was insane, almost 600 meters gained, 37 disposals, but a ridiculous 13 clearances. The next best on ground was 7, I believe. Some honorable mentions. Merritt was superb. He's unlucky not to feature. I loved Ridley's game. Laverde was really good. Zerk Thatcher as well down in defense. That whole defense was awesome. They stood up really well. But Carl Langford, I think, is the most unlucky not to feature. I think he was brilliant. He has this defensive midfield roll down pact. He saved us quite a few times down there. It was a really mature performance from him. I think he even had the most contested one-on-one battles and only lost 1 of them, which is really great for a player of his size. We have Gold Coast next week. I will release a match preview for it on Wednesday or Thursday. I haven't decided what day works best yet, but for now, that is the end of the video. Make sure you soak up this win. It might still be a long season. We don't know what's going to happen with our other games. We've got to keep a lid on it still, but let this one soak in. Get in the face of as many Hawks fans as you know, and subscribe to stay up to date with everything Essendon.